Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be cooking up today. I'm cooking dinner and I'm also going to do a little chit chat as well, just kind of about nutrition, about what my approach to nutrition is, and that kind of thing. So one of my goals for the new year was to cook more food. I feel like for so long depended on Trader Joe's frozen meals, which is not a bad thing, but I also have the time to cook. Like, I am at home all day. So I decided to I enjoy cooking, so I decided I want to start cooking more. So here I am, chefing it up. I love Half-Baked Harvest, and I also love macro-friendly foods. So I use those two. Depending on my macros for the day, I'll kind of tweak the recipes as needed, and I pre-track that first. So yes, I do track macros. I'm in the middle of a reverse diet, so I'm gradually increasing food. I'm gonna chop my vegetables. I got zucchini and a yellow squash, but I'm gradually increasing food, which means I can have a little bit more creativity with food. For the cut, I will say it was a fairly boring nutrition, which made me realize, like, oh my gosh, people legitimately get stuck in like diet culture and feel like they can't eat normally. They feel the need to restrict calories, and then that's not fun. So I decided that I would show you guys my approach to nutrition in hopes that shows you that eating healthy and living your best doesn't have to be complicated. I'm also chopping up a shallot, which is similar to an onion. What I'm making. So I started talking about why I love macro-friendly foods and Half-Baked Harvest. This week, I have made literally every single recipe from Half-Baked Harvest. The other night, we did like a chili crusted chicken, which it was really just this red chili paste from Thai Kitchen, and I love that stuff. It was just that, and you put it in a pan and toast it up, and then kind of coat the chicken in it to make it a little bit more crispy. So I was gonna do something like tonight I was gonna do something else, and then I decided, like, let's make a more creative meal because I don't ever cook my own meals. So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna just play around and see what I can come up with. So we're doing like kind of a pad thai, I guess you would say. I'm gonna do noodles. And then I'm gonna start with putting the shallots and the garlic in a pan, I think. And then I'm going to toss, so we're gonna do shrimp instead of chicken. So I have the shrimp defrosting here in water. I'm gonna just toy around with what that chicken recipe was, but do it with shrimp. So kind of like a chili coated shrimp with noodles and shallots, garlic, green onion, cilantro, zucchini, and squash. Shallots still make you cry like onions. But my approach to nutrition has always, well, not always, I shouldn't say always. For a while, it was kind of just like all over the place. But something that has been a habit of mine for a long time is like centered around vegetables and fresh foods. This also might be all over the place because I'm like starting to say things, not finishing what I'm saying. I've kind of been all over the board in what I've done for nutrition. It's been, follow macros strictly and eat plain foods. And then I've done the whole like listen to your body, like just eat whole foods kind of thing. And now I feel like I'm finally finding a balance of like you can have everything. And I finally feel like with that mentality, my physique has kind of taken care of itself after this last cut. Like, we're reversing right now. I've never gone through a true reverse. I kind of did for my wedding, but I stopped coaching after the wedding, so like I didn't complete the reverse. I'm also taking the peel off of my garlic, so you just do this. Also, fresh garlic, significantly better than the pre-minced stuff. But so now my approach to nutrition is kind of like eat the foods that make you feel good. Try to eat fresh foods, but also, hit your macros most of the time. My coach and I are going to toy around with the idea of having a couple of intuitive eating days. So just allowing myself to be more free in what I'm eating and that kind of thing and have more balance. So that's something I'm definitely like leaning towards. However, I will say I really do enjoy tracking macros, and I do feel my best when I have a little bit more routine and regimen, but I'm not like privy to the idea of, I don't know why I said privy. I'm not, you know, opposed to the idea of a couple of untracked days. So this is like me shaving the garlic. I know there's other ways to do it, but this minces it. I think my parents got it in Mexico, and it has been incredible. Okay, so I'm gonna heat up my pan. I put about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. And then what I'm going to do is let that heat up a little bit. And while that heats up, moving the oil around. I don't even know if that's right, but I'm gonna chop up my squash and zucchini into quarters, I think. So they're smaller. I just posted on my story today about, which whenever you're watching this, it wasn't today, but I posted about like just everything out there on the internet. Like all the information out there tends to stress me out sometimes. I think there's just so much misleading information. There's people on the internet who are like, you have to eat this to be healthy. Don't eat this because you're going to be unhealthy. And I think that's so misleading. There's just a lot of misleading information out there, and I feel like it stresses people out. I know people are like, I am nervous to eat more because I've been historically taught that I'm supposed to eat, you know, such a little amount. But then they're upset that they don't feel good in their own skin, and it saddens me. It's that vicious cycle you go through where you're told to eat so little. We grow up with, you know, people telling us to be our smallest version of ourselves, and then realizing like that's not our healthiest version of ourselves. That's not where we feel our best. And I know for me, I feel my best when I'm truly like prioritizing protein, prioritizing fruits and vegetables, but also keeping a balance. Like I have chocolate and I have alcohol and I have ice cream and I have all these things, but the bottom line is my diet is mainly comprised of whole foods. And I will say after the past couple of, I would say since like mid-December, maybe beginning of December, I've been trying to cook more, and I definitely feel a difference. But I get that everyone doesn't have time to cook. I have a freezer full of frozen foods readily available for nights that I just don't feel like cooking or don't have the time. And I think that's important to remember, of having a balance. All right, putting the garlic in. About to smell good up in here. But, you know, when people are like, I just don't know how to increase food, it scares me, I get it. I played college volleyball, and at a time when I was supposed to be eating the most food possible, I was afraid to eat. I was eating 1,400 calories as a collegiate athlete, and I think back and I'm like, what could have happened in my career? How could I have performed better had I prioritized my nutrition more? Had I prioritized fueling my body with 2,200, 2,300, 2,400 calories, lots of protein, instead of just lack of nutrients, low quality foods, and that kind of thing. You know, I did prioritize like carbs, protein, veggies back then, but I was so nervous to eat more. And that is why it makes me so sad to see other people at the same time too. Because if I could go back and tell past Kelsey, like, hey, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be wanting to eat 2,400 calories, 2,500 calories, like that sounds amazing to me because I know the benefit of it in my body. Essentially, my approach to nutrition is balance. And I know a lot of people say that, but finding what balance means to you, I think, is important. I think another thing too was, I posted on my story, like I mentioned. I posted this story. I was like, you know, what is something that frustrates you in nutrition right now on the internet? And so many people are like, well, everyone is saying such conflicting information. There's so much conflicting info out there, and I don't know what's right and wrong. And I'm like, you know what? I feel that because everybody has an opinion. You know, people tell, like, there was a video I watched today, and it was like, this one guy is telling you to not eat vegetables, and then another person's saying to not drink water. And you know why all these people are doing these things? It's for clout. And I think a good example of that was the Liver King that just came out, saying that he does steroids, even though he promised that he didn't. It's frustrating. And I know people are just saying these outlandish, crazy things to grow on the internet. So this is your message that there's going to be people that say things on the internet. You don't have to trust everything you say. I think it's so important to trial and error. Try different things out. Find what works for you. It's not going to happen overnight. It's taken me, since 2014 was the first time I started a diet, so it's taken me 8 years. It's going to take time. So stay patient and be open-minded to change. Okay, next up I'm going to add in the zucchini. I also realized I haven't started a boiling pot of water for the noodles, so that's not good. But I'm going to stir that up and get that going. And next, what I'm going to do while the pot of water is boiling up, I'm going to start on the shrimp. We're going to take this guy, and I think I'm just going to finish off. No, we're not. I love that smell. So I'm going to get that started heating up. In the meantime, I'm going to chop up all these green onion. I may not use all of them, but that is also a tip that I have. If you're going to be chopping up something and you know you don't need all of it, just chop it all up and put it into a reusable container and put it in the fridge. Like, I love just sprinkling green onion on whatever, but I love just having green onion, cilantro pre-chopped, if you like cilantro, if you're a parsley person, things like that you can just pre-chop ahead of time. It's not like they'll go bad throughout the week if they're in an airtight container. So that is something I highly, highly, highly recommend doing. And then a little pro tip for green onions, I like fold it in half. And then that way you can chop a significantly higher amount at once. That is like so helpful. So I just strained the shrimp. And in order for it to coat with the red curry paste, you have to put in some cornstarch. You can also do arrowroot. I'm going to just sprinkle it in. The recipe the other night called for like a tablespoon. I should probably put a little more in there. The more you put in it, technically, the more crispy it'll get, essentially. Like, it'll coat better. So we're just going to mix all that up. Again, don't judge my cooking skills. I don't know what I'm doing. Just kind of guessing. I also turned the veggies down. I did not. One thing I'm really bad at with cooking is timing. So I'm just going to toss these on in. So those are all like really nice and coated with the sauce. So I'm going to let those sit. All right, so this is the noodle I'm using. I also have these just in case there isn't enough of this, but I'm only having half serving just because I allotted my carbs at other times through the day. I'm focusing on having like higher fruits and things like that, so that is the only reason why normally I would have a full serving. Let's add these puppies into the water. And to be honest with you, when I serve it up, I eyeball it. I make sure I know how many servings I have, so like this is making literally a serving for me and a serving for my husband, so I pretty much just break it up. Usually I cook in threes. He usually has 2/3 of the meal and I have a third, and I've just found that that works. Now there's other ways to measure out your food once it's cooked, like that is always an option. I'm just saying for me, because I've tracked so much, because I know what serving sizes look like, it's a little simpler for me to just look at a meal and be like, yeah, that's what I tracked. But that's not the way for everyone, and that's okay, because I used to have to weigh out every single thing, and I typically still do, unless it's something that I just don't have the ability to. Like dinner tonight is all going to cook up in this big pot, and for me to realistically know exactly the amounts, it would be a little harder, and so I just give myself grace on that and know the rest of the day I am diligently weighing out all my food. But I've also learned over time like how much a typical zucchini weighs, so I know roughly how much I'm having of that, and that kind of thing. So that's just stuff that came over time to me. And if you're not there yet, that's okay, because it can come to you as well. It's all a learning process and just being patient and knowing that it's your specific journey. All right, we're flipping over these shrimpies. They're probably gonna have to cook a few times on each side. They're not looking super crispy so far. And even if we don't get them super crispy, ultimately the extra sauce at the bottom will kind of coat in the pasta fish, I think. Now, this is a very controversial topic, but cilantro, I put this in anything I can. I love cilantro. The last I'm gonna add, I'm gonna chop up a jalapeno, or maybe part of a jalapeno, but mostly just because, like I mentioned, I try to have as many fresh things as possible in a meal, because that, again, is what makes me feel my best. Also going to spritz a lime over it, just to give it some extra flavor. I know some people do that on their pad thai, on their pho. Pho sounds so good. All right, forgot to show, but I did dump the shrimp in, and then I'm gonna dump the noodles in. Mix that all up. And then something else I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add in some coconut aminos. It's just kind of like soy sauce, but I like the taste way better. It has a little bit of a sweeter flavor, but I like it. The burner is also off right now, so this is what it's looking like. I'm not sure that it's super visually appealing, but I hope it tastes good. I'm also going to add in just some salt and pepper to taste, because why not? I don't know if pepper was necessary, but here we are. And then I'm going to, this is really chaotic. Going to spritz that lime over the top. I'm not sure if a full lime was necessary, but give it one more mix. But I hope the pepper didn't ruin it, because now I'm thinking about that again. So I'm going to plate this now. So it's actually going in a bowl. But essentially what I want to do, so you see the pasta dish, I'm just going to eyeball. I did track out though 10 shrimp, and that's because I don't weigh out the shrimp. They're usually the same size. So I'm just going to take out 10 shrimp. And again, like I mentioned, find what works for you with cooking. Find what works for you with measuring. I know some people with tracking get super obsessive over it. And so I think that's also important to keep in mind. If you are a person who obsesses over every single number when you're tracking, you want the perfect zeros every single day, that's a problem. It shouldn't be like that. So making sure you have a healthy relationship with tracking if you want to continue doing so. So now what I'm gonna do is take a look at this pasta and kind of just eyeball out a third of it. It's not perfect. Okay, so now what I love about this meal, and I try to make mini meals like this, is that we can now come over here, choose our toppings, add them on as we would like to, and make it our own. What are you gonna have?
Just a little pad thai job.
Kind of.
Everything, I think. A little jalapeno.
I'm doing everything as well, because I love it all. Here's the finished product. I am obsessed. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. All right, one taste. See how it is.
Oh.
For winging it, I did a really good job.
Oh.
Not too shabby. Thank you for watching. If you want more of this content, let me know. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.